Ready to unlock amazing insights? This is Zentara Unlocked, your daily audio journey from Zentara.blog. Listen to a top article each day, wherever you are. For a fresh wave of knowledge, visit Zentara.blog. 6 new mind-expanding articles land every single day. Top 10 myths about ancient Egypt you thought were true. Ancient Egypt, land of pharaohs, pyramids, mummies, and incredible golden treasures. It's one of the most fascinating civilizations in history, and we've been learning about it for hundreds of years. But just like a game of telephone, sometimes the stories get a bit mixed up or exaggerated over time. The internet, movies, and even old tales can spread ideas that aren't quite accurate. Ready to become an Egyptology expert? Let's uncover the truth behind 10 of the biggest myths about ancient Egypt. You might be surprised by what you find out. 1. Cleopatra's beauty was her only superpower. The myth, Cleopatra VII, the famous last pharaoh of Egypt, is often portrayed as the most beautiful woman in history. Many believe her stunning looks were her main tool to influence powerful Roman leaders like Julius Caesar and Mark Antony. The real story: while Cleopatra was undoubtedly charming and captivating, ancient accounts and coins suggest her power came more from her incredible intelligence, wit, and charisma than just her physical appearance. Roman coins minted during her reign show her with a strong nose and chin, features that might not fit today's popular image of beauty. Historians like Plutarch, writing not long after her death, said her actual beauty was not in itself so remarkable, but her conversation had an irresistible charm, and her voice was like an instrument of many strings. She spoke many languages, was highly educated, and was a shrewd political leader. She knew how to make herself agreeable and interesting, which, combined with her royal status and Egypt's wealth, made her a powerful force, far more than just a pretty face. 2. Aliens zapped the pyramids into existence. The myth, the pyramids, especially the Great Pyramid of Giza, are so massive and precisely built that some people believe ancient Egyptians couldn't possibly have made them alone. So, the theory goes, super advanced aliens must have helped, or even built them entirely. The real story: alien enthusiasts. Archaeologists and historians have found tons of evidence showing that the Egyptians themselves built the pyramids. We've discovered the villages where the workers lived, their tools, and even their bakeries and cemeteries. Inscriptions and papyri, ancient paper, describe the organization of the workforce: skilled laborers, not slaves as once commonly believed for the Giza pyramids. They used ingenious methods like ramps, straight, zigzag, or internal, to haul the massive stone blocks, which weighed an average of 2.5 tons each. Recent discoveries, like a 4,500-year-old ramp system at a quarry in Hatnub, show just how clever their engineering was. It took incredible skill, planning, and a lot of human effort, not extraterrestrial intervention. 3. The instant death mummy's curse. The myth: anyone who dares to open an ancient Egyptian tomb, especially a pharaoh's, will be struck down by a deadly curse, bringing misfortune, illness, or even a swift, spooky death. The curse of the pharaohs became super famous after the opening of Tutankhamun's tomb in 1922. The real story: while it's true that some people connected to the Tutankhamun excavation died in the years following, there's no scientific evidence of a supernatural curse. Many of the curse victims lived long lives, including Howard Carter, the main archaeologist, who lived for another 16 years. The deaths that did occur can be explained by natural causes common at the time. Some scientists suggest that ancient tombs could contain harmful mold or bacteria that might have affected people with weaker immune systems. However, the curse was largely fueled by sensationalist newspaper reporting looking for exciting stories. While some tombs had warnings to protect them, the idea of a magical, deadly curse is more Hollywood fiction than historical fact. 4. Hieroglyphs, just cute picture writing. The myth: many people think Egyptian hieroglyphs were just a simple form of writing, where each little picture directly represented an object or an idea, like a bird picture always meaning bird. The real story: hieroglyphs are much more complex and clever than just simple picture writing. While some signs called ideograms can represent the object they depict, a picture of a sun might mean sun, most hieroglyphs actually represent sounds, much like the letters in our alphabet. These are called phonograms. For example, a picture of an owl represents the M sound. Scribes would combine these sound signs to spell out words. There were also determinatives, which were signs placed at the end of a word to give a clue about its meaning, like indicating if a word was a type of animal or an abstract idea. Learning to read and write hieroglyphs took many years of training, and scribes were highly respected. It was a sophisticated writing system capable of expressing complex ideas, stories, and official records. 5. All Egyptians worshipped cats as gods. The myth. You've probably seen lots of cat statues from ancient Egypt, and heard that Egyptians worshipped cats as divine gods, treating every single feline as a deity. The real story: Egyptians didn't exactly worship every cat they saw as a god. However, they held cats in very high esteem, and believed they were sacred animals associated with certain deities, most famously, the goddess Bastet. Bastet was often depicted as a woman with the head of a cat, or as a cat itself, and she represented protection, fertility, and motherhood. Cats were admired for their protectiveness against pests like snakes and scorpions, their grace, and their mothering skills. People kept them as beloved pets and believed they could bring good luck. Killing a cat, even accidentally, was a very serious crime. So while they didn't see every cat as a god, they believed cats carried a divine essence and were special representatives of goddesses like Bastet. They even mummified cats to offer to Bastet. 6. Pharaohs' servants, buried alive for the afterlife? The myth, a gruesome idea, persists that when a pharaoh died, all their servants, officials, and sometimes even wives were killed and buried alive with them to serve their ruler in the afterlife. The real story: this practice, known as retainer sacrifice, did happen in ancient Egypt, but it was very rare and limited to a very early period of its long history, mainly during the First Dynasty, around 3100 to 2890 BCE. Archaeologists have found subsidiary graves around the tombs of these early pharaohs at places like Abydos, containing the remains of individuals who appear to have been sacrificed. However, this custom quickly died out. For the vast majority of ancient Egyptian history, thousands of years, this was not the practice. Instead, Egyptians believed that special figurines called shabtis, or ushabtis, could magically come to life in the afterlife to do any work required for the deceased. So, pharaohs were buried with hundreds of these shabti figures, not with sacrificed people. 7. Napoleon's soldiers used the Sphinx for target practice. The myth, the Great Sphinx of Giza, is famously missing its nose, and a popular story claims that Napoleon Bonaparte's soldiers shot it off with a cannon when they were in Egypt during his campaign in 1798 to 1801. The real story: while Napoleon's soldiers did go to Egypt, they are not to blame for the Sphinx's missing nose. We know this because detailed drawings of the Sphinx made by European travelers in the early 1700s, well before Napoleon's campaign, already show the Sphinx without its nose. Historical accounts from much earlier, like those by the Arab historian al-Makrizi in the 15th century, state that the nose was deliberately damaged in 1378 CE by a Sufi Muslim named Muhammad Sa'im al-Dar. He apparently vandalized it because he was angered by local peasants making offerings to the Sphinx in hopes of a good harvest, so the nose was gone centuries before Napoleon even arrived. 8. Egyptians were totally obsessed with death. The myth, with all the mummies, elaborate tombs, and funerary texts like the Book of the Dead, it's easy to think that ancient Egyptians were a gloomy people obsessed with death and dying. The real story, actually, it's more accurate to say the ancient Egyptians were obsessed with life and wanted it to continue forever. Their elaborate preparations for the afterlife, including mummification and building well-stocked tombs, were all about ensuring a happy and successful continuation of life after death. They believed the afterlife was a kind of paradise, a field of reeds, very similar to life in Egypt, but without sadness or hardship. Their tombs were seen as houses of eternity, and the goods placed inside were things they'd need to enjoy their eternal existence. So, their focus wasn't on the end of life, but on making sure life, in a new form, went on beautifully and comfortably. They loved life so much, they wanted to make it last forever. 9. The Library of Alexandria, all world knowledge lost in one fire? The myth, the Great Library of Alexandria, is often romanticized as a place that held all the knowledge of the ancient world. And its destruction by a single catastrophic fire, often blamed on Julius Caesar, plunged humanity into a dark age. The real story: the Library of Alexandria was indeed one of the largest and most significant libraries of the ancient world, a major center of scholarship. However, the idea that it contained all knowledge is an exaggeration. There were other important libraries. Its decline was also more gradual than a single event. While Julius Caesar's fire in the harbor in 48 BCE did damage some scrolls, possibly those stored in warehouses near the port, rather than the main library itself, the library seems to have survived or been rebuilt. It faced further troubles over centuries due to neglect, changing political support, and later conflicts, including a Palmyrene invasion in the 27 OHCE and the destruction of a subsidiary library in the Serapeum Temple in 391 CE. While its loss was immense, it didn't single-handedly stop the progress of knowledge, which was always a complex and widespread endeavor. Deset. All ancient Egyptians looked like movie stars or one specific way. The myth, movies and art often show ancient Egyptians with a very specific, often stereotyped look. This can lead to the idea that they were a single uniform race, or that they looked exactly like modern actors playing them. The real story: ancient Egypt was a civilization that lasted for over 3,000 years, and was located at a crossroads between Africa, the Mediterranean, and the Near East. Its population was diverse, just like many countries today. Egyptian art itself shows people with a range of skin tones, from reddish-brown common for men in art to yellowish common for women in art, and they depicted people from neighboring lands like Nubians from the south or Libyans from the west, with different features and complexions. Applying modern ideas of race to ancient Egypt is tricky and often misleading. What's clear is that they were a Nilotic Nile Valley people, with a genetic heritage that included contributions from various surrounding regions over millennia. There wasn't one single Egyptian look, but rather a spectrum of appearances, adapted to their environment and influenced by trade and interaction with other cultures. Learning about ancient Egypt is like being a detective, piecing together clues from the past. By looking at real evidence, we can discover a civilization that was even more amazing and complex than the myths suggest. You've just unlocked another piece of knowledge with Zentara Unlocked. Craving more? Zentara.blog publishes 6 new, easy-to-digest articles every single day. Don't miss out. Subscribe to the podcast, and we'll catch you on the next one. Stay wonderfully curious.